From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. There's soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
I apologize if I drop out. I am at home this time instead of at the office where the internet's a lot better up there.
You're doing well.
But I'm sitting right next to the router, so hopefully...
No problem.
My
you have to, you're going to plug yourself
in. As good
in.
as it can be.
Oh.
I don't think that's an option. Yeah, I've got one of those Microsoft Surface.
Oh, so do we.
Deals.
Yeah.
They don't have an Ethernet port. So yeah,
it would be too thick.
Roll the punches on that one. So hopefully it holds out. I just reset it, so
okay. Well, you know,
hopefully we're good.
I've pretended we've had guests on that weren't really there, so I'll just make up a voice for you, and I'll just keep answering the questions. So that's not a problem.
Oh, what episode was that? 'Cause I want to listen to that one.
I dig it.
Jennifer, you were before Trey. I mean, Trey, yeah.
So Jennifer,
so I'm hoping it happens again because I want to know what Bill's voice for me is.
No problem.
What it actually sounds
It's usually a girl voice. I'm just going to tell you right now.
It's the good thing is I have a different voice for every person, and I stay in character the entire time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The bad thing is I need a much bigger glass of water when I do that.
Yeah.
Because my voice gets beaten by the time we do it. Yeah, I did that. We have a friend. We do these Woot episodes. They're way off our topic episodes, so they have nothing to do with racing. Mm-hmm. So usually they're about like comic book superhero movies and things like that. Mm-hmm. So
we're doing the Mandalorian next.
Yeah, we're doing the Mandalorian.
Sweet.
This weekend. So we have a friend that I used to work with who's a really huge comic book person, probably might be bigger than me. Well, he's definitely taller than me. He's like 6'9". But his brother Alex comes on all the time, and like twice he didn't show up. So the first time I just did it like one sentence, and then the second time he didn't come on at all. So I did the entire episode.
We're doing a whole
did a whole entire episode in a female voice.
That's right. So Alex, what do you think about it? And then I just go into an answer that would be like ridiculously long.
Great.
Come to my podcast where I make fun of you.
Hey, that's only fair.
Exactly. That's what I think.
Fair.
I mean, what the hell? What's more important than a podcast? I mean, geez. Anyway.
He went here for the University of Delaware for his bachelor's, and then he's down there for
okay. I got you. What's he studying down there?
Computer science.
Ooh, magician. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I don't know where he gets it from. It ain't from me.
Good for him.
All right.
Glad you didn't find it, Bill.
Find what?
You know what you were looking for. You're back.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, I can't shrink it. I blew this thing up. So Jennifer's making fun of me. So we went to a race in Charlotte, and Jennifer got into an accident. So usually whenever the word Charlotte comes on, I pop up a background up of her accident right behind me.
Yes. On video, hitting the wall.
Yeah, it's just going around the turn. Boom.
You got roveled, huh?
Yeah, and then I go like this. Turn.
Broke 2 ribs.
Turn.
Ooh.
Turn.
Man. Oh. What part of the track was it?
Going out of the inner loop onto the
back onto the
right.
And after we talked Jennifer down, because she felt horrible. What is your answer, Jen?
Oh, I'd do it again.
I'd do it again.
I'll do it again.
And she did.
Good.
So
she got back in the car.
Fun.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you wrecked and broke 2 ribs again. I mean, usually that's not something you try to repeat.
I wouldn't want to do that again, but I would definitely do the.
She was really questioning getting back in the car again, though.
Yes.
No, she wasn't.
Okay, that's fair.
don't think you are.
But
I
if
thought
you
you were
have
questioning.
to break ribs, I mean, there's lots
Think
of
how-
ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
Might as well have
definitely one of the
fun.
more fun. Now, I don't know. I think being in a race car is probably one of the most fun ways to break a rib.
Exactly, right?
And poor Jennifer kept coming back from Charlotte. She had to drive in a very bouncy
RV.
mobile home
Oh,
The
RV.
worst.
oof.
She had to stop halfway to go
Oof.
back into ER because she thinks these are not fractured. These are broken. They're like, yep, they're broken.
Same thing. Yeah. It's-
They're like, we're gonna give you 11 pills for pain.
like all at once.
No. But
Think she would've got home no problem.
Yeah, right.
It
He
was
wouldn't even
supposed-
be able to feel it.
It was supposed to last 5 days until I got home.
They've seen Jim drive.
Long drive.
I'm like, 11 pills isn't gonna get me home. I'm gonna tell you
They
that
thought
right
you were
now.
gonna. They thought you were gonna walk home.
So we had a. You just reminded me of the joke. We had a friend who broke his. Well, let me rephrase that. He had an accident. He was on his motorcycle. He was doing motocross, and he landed and broke his ankles, both of them.
Oh,
At the same
yeah.
time.
So he writes. I'm like, did I miss something? Because he said, if anybody's got a portable ramp or something for his house. I'm like, did I miss something? He's like, yeah, I fractured one ankle and I broke the other one. And I'm sitting there going,
That's what a
huh?
fracture is.
Yeah,
Right.
Jennifer, did you hear that? That was Bruce.
Oh no.
Remember
I didn't know
Bruce?
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
He
I'm like
drives
sitting there
Black
going,
Betty.
what's the difference between a fractured ankle and a broken
Yeah,
ankle?
I mean, it's broken.
Yeah.
Usually, people refer to like a hairline fracture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where the-
That's what they think of as a fracture, whereas
Yeah.
like a break is it's clean
Yeah,
break.
but
he
they
did.
use
Mhm.
fracture across the board, but they're
Yeah, all breaks are fractures.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like whenever I get my head scanned, they always say, they looked at everything and there's nothing there. And I said, but
Yeah, sounds about right.
yep, I agree. Vicki definitely agrees.
Yeah, sounds about right.
We can't find anything. Yep, I know. Welcome to the Garage Heroes and Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is Bill. Who's hosting?
I'm Vicki.
Jennifer.
Excellent. You guys know who you are. Fantastic. We're off to a tremendous start here. We have a guest for the third time. Why he keeps coming on, we don't know. We love him coming on. We just don't know why he keeps saying yes. We have Trey Shannon on again, and he's going to help us talk about fitness and racing. Welcome, Trey.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I had to come back because I heard Bill has a cool voice for me.
That's true.
Apparently, I only get to hear it if
you're
I'm
not
not here.
That's right.
In which case, I can't hear it because I'm not here. So I guess I'm kind of screwed either way.
That's right. You would have been here whether you came or not. So, just your voice would have sounded a whole lot different because I can't do impersonation. So I just go the exact opposite. So Trey, it's the off season. We're coming up on the winter time. Typically people go fix their car, people go and try to get their car faster. We always know that the slowest part of our car is how do I put this? Us. So we try to work on our skills. But the other thing that people try and do is they try and make their car lighter. I think that instead of shaving 1 pound off for using some carbon fiber or whoozy what's it, I could easily lose 20 pounds of Bill, and it would be in every single car. So we've got a challenging time with us. We've got COVID going on. We've got all kinds of craziness going on. 2020 is a year that I definitely don't want to think back on. But what have you been doing in the times of COVID to help your clients, and what can we do that would help us and our friends and listeners?
Yeah, well, you're definitely already on the right track, because I think, shaving a pound out of the car here and there usually costs something to do it, whereas shaving 20 pounds off of Bill, that's a time commitment proposition. So your dollars per pound are already working out a lot better.
Exactly.
But yeah, for us during COVID, it's actually been mostly business as usual. We're a one-on-one training facility, so we haven't really needed to close down anything. But I do have a number of online clients that I work with, and they typically work out at home already as it is. So I've gotten pretty familiar with, what kind of things we can do at home, especially for those who don't have a lot of equipment. There's a lot of, just sort of what we call ground-based or floor-based exercises that you can do that don't require any weight at all. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can still do even if you're stuck at home. And then at the same time, things like running, cycling, hiking, rock climbing, if you're into that. Over the summer, if you were into any kind of water sport, those were still fair game. So I know with it being a little bit colder out over the winter, especially where you guys are versus where I am, it may not be as comfortable to go outside and go for a run, but stuff like that is definitely still an option as well.
Yeah, there's still a lot of safe things you can do. Absolutely.
So Trey, most of your clients tend to be in the area of racing and driving, being that you're down near Charlotte. So is there a significant difference in the exercises that help a driver, or is it fairly similar with a few specialized, or is it, pretty much the same as, hey, just get in shape, or it depends, I guess, on your level too?
Yeah. So that last thing you just said there, it definitely depends on your fitness level. So if somebody has never trained before that comes to us, then we'll start them out with more of a general fitness kind of training style. And we'll work on getting them to learn all of the different exercises and how to do them safely, and try to build what we call work capacity. So we try to make it so that they can handle doing more work while they're in the facility. And then once they're at a certain level that is, competent, so to speak, then we can move into some of the more driver specific. We do a lot of work with the cognitive function, getting the brain to work under high stress. We do a lot of work with like training the neck, that sort of thing. And we also do a lot with teaching everybody how to breathe when their body's being compressed, when their core is loaded and they're getting pushed around inside the car, and they still have to be able to breathe. So breathing is essentially how you deliver oxygen to all of your muscles into your brain. So without efficient breathing, you're going to wear out a lot more quickly. So
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we actually start focusing on pretty immediately, because I think really for anybody, whether they've been training before or haven't, being able to maximize their breathing and really make that super efficient before we even do any of the other physical exercises can be a huge benefit.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised at how much driving took out of you physically. I mean, it really, really is quite strenuous. I mean, you wouldn't think that, but it really is.
Well, also at the same time, it's deceiving because you're pretty much running on adrenaline. So by the end of that weekend, I mean, you can sleep for 3 days.
Wish I could. That'd be great.
Yeah. And it's really easy to start relying on that adrenaline too, right? So you may not even realize that your body's getting more fatigued and more fatigued and more fatigued. And then by the time you get out of the car, you're still feeling good. You still got the adrenaline going. And then like an hour afterwards, a couple hours afterwards, or when you get back to the hotel or back into the camper or whatever it is, you're like, oh man, I can sleep for 3 days,
Yeah.
like you just said.
Right. That's usually like when we're loading up and when you need that energy back.
I don't want to put stuff back anymore.
Why don't they make a car that loads itself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not even thinking
Yeah, I
about what
agree.
you do before and after the race as far as physical activity. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was funny. I actually did like a seminar one time about this, and so basically this exact topic, and somebody put in like the notes afterwards that I didn't even touch on the most important topic for them, and that was getting tires up and down out of their tire rack is the most strenuous thing they do while they're at the track because they're doing all of their own work and things. So we talked about all these different things inside the car, and we didn't even talk about what they have to do outside of the car to get
Yep.
the car onto the track. And a lot of racers who are not at the professional
Mhm.
level, they're doing all of their own work at the track, so that really takes a huge toll as well. And then you're trying to get into this really high stress environment where you're being compressed and things are happening really quickly, and you need to be as fresh as possible, and you're already worn down from carrying tires around and jacks and things like that and working on the car.
Especially when you have to fix a car as many times as we do. I mean, shoot, it's like a full-time job. I understand.
Yeah, it definitely changes the game a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. The rightsy-tightsy is not so easy after a while.
So what would a basic fitness outline be?
I'm sorry, you cut out there a little bit. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. What would your basic outline, fitness outline be? Just especially for people that really aren't.
Like a simple routine 101 kind of.
Yeah. So
Because I guarantee a lot of the people that we hang out with, they're pretty much beer drinkers,
Yeah.
but and probably think about it once a year
New Year's resolution.
about now.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And this is maybe I should prepare for next year this time around.
Right. Now would be the time to prepare for April.
Exactly. So yeah, especially during the situation everybody's in now, and most everybody's going to have to do any kind of training at home versus being able to go into a gym or something like that. So it would be we would start with just a lot of body weight exercises. We would crawl around. We would things like lunges, air squats, push-ups, planks, crawls, that sort of thing. There's a lot of things we could do to actually work on our balance, that sort of stuff. Super, super helpful for drivers to improve their balance, just because of all of the three different mechanisms, let's say, that are at play when it comes to balance. They're also really utilized when you're in the car as well. So if we can improve, our vision and our vestibular system and our sense of feel, then we have a better handle on the car. And we'll do a lot of things that involve being able to control what the body's doing. So that's why I mentioned crawls earlier. We use the Leopard crawl a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially just imagine that you're starting on your hands and knees, and you pick your knees up just an inch off the floor, and you've got to try to crawl yourself across the room without your knees touching the floor. And then imagine you have a glass of water on your lower back, and you don't want to spill that glass of water. So being able to control all of your body's movements while still pushing yourself forward, that's one that we'll actually use a lot. And we use it as part of our evaluation as well. So I can see right off the bat what kind of motor control and strength of stability everybody has just going into it. Gives me a really good indication of where everybody's starting point for that is. And then we'll work on developing that further and further.
So obviously everybody does have a different starting point, but on average, how many times a week or how long of a session do you see clients for?
Yeah, that definitely depends, especially with, whether it's a go-kart racer who's in school, or like a, professional driver who gets paid to drive. Their budget's a lot larger than, let's say, somebody who's going from
What if it's a
race or-
roly-poly, pale white fat boy who works during the day and is trying to become less of a roly-poly, pale white fat boy?
Usually those are the guys that actually have the most money, and they end up coming in the most because they've made their money elsewhere, and they've got enough to just pay for racing and pay for training, and they can do this and they can do that. But yeah, it really does.
What about the roly-poly, pale white, cheap fat boy?
So I'll see people up to 5 times a week, and then there's some that I only see once a week. So it really just, it depends, and it's, the average is just right in the middle because nobody's really on the average. It's just, you got people all over the place with that. But in terms of starting like a home-based program or something like that, 3 or 4 times a week of starting out with just like a half an hour of work. And then you can start ramping that up to being a little bit more, maybe do 3 days of 45 minutes, and then 4 days of 45 minutes, and then 3 days of an hour, and then 4 days of an hour, something like that. But I think the biggest thing for most people to realize is that doing something is better than doing nothing. So even if it's once or twice a week, that's still better than not doing anything at all. So if you feel like, oh, well, there's no way I can train 5 days a week, so screw it, I'm just not going to train. That doesn't really hold water, because doing something just once a week or twice a week, like I said, is better than doing nothing 0 times a week.
Is there like a minimum effective dose? Like it needs to be at least this many times a week, or at least for this long, or at least to this heart rate? Or
yeah, there is, and that's getting a little bit more technical, because the minimum effective dose for everybody's going to be slightly different based on what their fitness level is. It's interesting. I just saw an article not too long ago about people who wear Fitbits and try to get their steps.
Yep.
And trying to get 10,000 steps a day could be extremely useful for one person and almost completely useless for another. So it really, minimum effective dose is definitely a moving target. That's a moving scale, and it's not necessarily going to be the same for everybody.
Okay.
But the better shape you're in, the higher that minimum effective dose is. The worse shape you're in, the lower that minimum effective dose is.
Okay.
And as you get into better and better shape, the requirement tends to get a little bit higher.
So over the past 8 months, I've personally known a lot of people who've been home and eating quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'm right here, John.
And maybe gained some weight. So
These things work
across the industry, I suppose my question would be, like, have you seen like a lot of people
In trouble?
not going to the gym or not exercising? I mean, has there been like this downfall over the past 8 months?
Yeah, so I mean, it is kind of tough for me to tell, because I'm a little bit isolated from the rest of the fitness industry. I know that the gym that my wife and I go to here, we actually don't go to ours because it's a lot farther away. But the one that we typically go to, there are far fewer people there, and we don't go nearly as often either, because we're trying to be safer too. So,
People are just choosing different exercise places. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is difficult to tell. And I know that a lot of really smart people have created online available type programs for those who want to continue training but can't go to a gym. So those are out there. And for the most part, they've already been out there.
Mhm.
But are there more people now that maybe would have worked out had they been able to go to a gym and aren't working out because they're stuck at home and they're not really sure what to do? Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely going to happen in a situation like this. But I think overall, it's not like everybody needs to. It's not like everybody needs to be in a position where they can't do anything. Like we can all still, like I said, go for a run, ride a bike, do some things at home that don't require any equipment or very lightweight. I think a lot of people sleep on the really low weights, like 5, 8, 10 pounds. But even somebody who's in really good shape can get a lot of really good use out of something like that. And one of the things you asked earlier, what kind of stuff were we doing for our clients? For any of them who did choose to stay at home, we incorporated something that we call tempo work. So you can do a standard exercise, let's say like a lying on the floor bench press with light weight, or a bicep curl, or or an air squat or something like that. And you can put tempo to it. So instead of, doing your bicep curls going really quickly, you can make it take 3 seconds to go up and 3 seconds to go down. And you increase what we call time under tension. And that has really positive benefits for growing muscle as well. So there's definitely options for what you can do at home. But yeah, I mean, there's also, you're going to have people that if they can't go to the gym, they're not going to do as much or do anything at all. And that's why it is really important to emphasize that doing something is better than doing nothing.
Now here's one question I have.
But I've got a really stupid story.
Do you want to do the story? You
I do.
The story before we move
By
on.
all means, let him do a stupid story.
So
Stupid story.
For those of you who like this tempo thing, there is a tremendous thing that we used to do in practices in high school. So Billy Squier has this song called The Stroke. And if you have to do one curl for every time the drum beat goes down, by the 3-minute and 12-second mark, I don't care if you're just doing like a 2-pound weight in each hand, your biceps are killing you. It's deadly. So if you're into the classic rock genre, Billy Squier, The Stroke, excellent for setting up.
That's not the only one.
Oh, we've got more.
Yeah. So one of the biggest, I think, like social media trends that I got pulled into when
were you the guy on the back
started.
of that singing the Fleetwood Mac song? Was that you?
Nope, not that one.
Oh, sorry.
I was on the Flower by Moby train. So bring Sally up, bring Sally down.
Yeah.
Every time you bring Sally up, you push up or squat up or whatever it is. And every time it says bring Sally down, you're back down. So that one is pretty tough because it's a 4-minute song.
Yeah, exactly.
As well. And they say it a lot.
And it's quite obvious which one of us is older than the other. So, Vicki, sorry to interrupt you. I had to interrupt with my stupid story.
That's okay. So when it comes to fitness, there have been people who, have been home for several months and been eating every day like a cheat day. So what would be your basic
right here?
Just an easy to follow basic regimen, not hardcore diet, just eating well. Would you recommend? Because
so that one's always tough because everybody likes different things, right? And it's, you can't really just tell people to eat this and you'll be fine because they may not like that. And if they don't like it, then they're going to say, man, forget this. I'm just going to eat what I want to eat. I think the biggest thing that we can all pay attention to is what our portion sizes are. So just because we're in a pandemic, all of the rules of nutrition haven't gone out the window. They all still exist. You want to eat your lean proteins and green veggies and complex carbohydrates versus your simple starches and things like that. All of those rules still apply. But now that we're at home a lot more and maybe cooking more ourselves, I know I'm not a particularly talented chef. I'm actually quite poor. Thankfully, I'm married to somebody who is very good at making delicious food and allows me to just pick up food on the way home sometimes.
Was she nearby enough to hear that? Did we help at all? All right, very well.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing with now doing that though is making sure you're not just eating too much of it. So, the biggest thing is just don't go overboard with all of that. And I know there are also a lot of people where, free time may equal more eating. I know I'm one of them.
Free time is eat time.
Free time is eat time. Exactly. So, being able to keep yourself more in check there. I know for me, having an eating schedule definitely helps a lot. Where I say, okay, these are the meals I'm going to eat, and this is the times that I'm going to eat them, give or take, an hour here or there, because obviously you may get wrapped up in something or something like that. But, set alarms for when you need to eat. That way you're not just, oh, I missed. Yeah. You're not, oh, I missed a meal. So now I'm just going to destroy dinner and have, 2.5 dinners because I'm so hungry. Or, you're not sitting there bored. Oh, I'm going to have a snack. No, wait, alarm didn't go off yet. That kind of thing. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing during all of this is not necessarily what everybody's eating. I think it's more about how much of what you're eating.
There's this really bad rumor that I need you to confirm or deny. There's this rumor that I can out eat any exercise routine you can put in front of me. Just a thought. I mean,
So I'll confirm that for anybody. It's very easy for anybody to out eat a good exercise routine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's very difficult to out exercise a bad diet.
Yes.
I mean, you almost can't.
Well, I think one of the things that I've discovered that really helps for me is documentation. And I actually use, which I'm about ready to use again, the Noom app for me works. But I hear that also FitPal also has something very similar to it, where you can set your caloric intake and how much you want. And then it also does portion control. And I know that helps along with fitness, because if you're not paying attention to where you're eating or how often you're eating it, you're going to overeat and you're going to eat larger portions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't think about it.
Right, exactly. And that's another really good point is, when it comes to portion control, having a way like that to monitor that as well, not just maybe the time of day that you're eating or how many meals you're eating, but then how much goes into each one, and being able to track that is always a good way to make sure that you're not going overboard with anything there. On the other side of that though, if there is somebody who is training quite a bit, it's very easy to undereat, because food is recovery. Now that's not licensed to say, oh, I work out 3 days a week, I need to eat twice as many calories as a normal person.
Right.
That's not quite how it works. But food is still fuel, and food means recovery. So if you are able to, for anybody who is able to train regularly or exercise regularly, even if it's, somebody who runs a mile or two every day, then you've got to be able to replace the fuel that you've expended doing that. So, portion control obviously is a very important element of it, and that actually works on both sides. You can't overeat, but you also can't undereat as well.
Right. And I do know that some of these apps too do have accommodations in there for fitness. So they do say, you did work out. What did you do? Exactly what did you do? What was your regimen? And then it'll
estimate how many calories you burn doing that. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and how much more caloric intake you need to recover. So yeah, stuff like that is extremely helpful.
That's always, that's always a tricky part about fitness, I find.
It is, and it's something that I mean, I'll admit I don't even have completely dialed in myself. For all of our athletes, we have a nutritionist that they all work with. So we'll send them to somebody here in the area to work on that, and that's that kind of stuff. At least for the athletes, that's way above my head, and it's something that she can track what they're doing, how much they're doing, and actually prescribe a specific amount of nutrients for each of them, and based.
Do you find that it's the lack of exercise or physical exercise, or the poor diet in most people? That
It's probably more on the diet side for most folks. Yeah. And I mean, it's all part of the health puzzle, and I think they're both extremely important aspects of it. But I think it's a lot easier for somebody to eat well and not necessarily get a ton of exercise. They're more likely to be a little healthier than somebody who does exercise moderately but then eats like complete garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that having a good healthy diet is more of a basis for long-term health than necessarily exercising every day, because you're going to eat multiple times a day every day. It's something that's 100% necessary for us to survive, is to take in sustenance, whereas exercise can improve our health and well-being, but it's not literally necessary for us to continue existing, whereas food is necessary for us to stay alive. So I think that, trying to give them both their place, having a healthy diet is going to be more of a, let's say, the base of the pyramid, whereas exercise goes on top of that and is a little bit tapered down.
Yeah, sometimes I think they get lumped in together, and they really are very different.
Yeah, absolutely. And they get lumped in together because, like I said, they're still part of the health puzzle, right? So they could be two adjoining pieces. But yeah, they can be separated and dealt with individually as well. And I think the diet aspect of it gets extremely undervalued, especially in American society. We have plenty of fast food options, and high calorie beers, and all sorts of things that are absolutely delicious and extremely tempting for everybody to eat all the time.
So speaking of Slurpees, how many Slurpees a week is too many?
What?
How many Slurpees per week is too many?
Slurpees are so bad for you.
One
One
would be too many. Yeah. Now, if that's something that you absolutely love and you have a very,
what do you mean if?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, who doesn't, right? But assuming you have a solid, well-rounded diet and you love Slurpees,
I do.
Have a Slurpee a week. It's
Okay.
not going to kill you if you have one Slurpee a week and everything else is falling into place. So I think that's also one of the other things that people can tend to go overboard on, is when they are trying to, that's why we have diets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crash diets and fad diets, is people think, oh, I can't have a single thing that isn't on this approved list. And then they do it for like a week or two, or maybe 3 weeks if they're good. And they're like, oh, forget this. And they go way off the deep end, It's
a cheat day.
That's why most people.
Right. But let's say you just have an eighth of a Slurpee every day.
Ooh.
Then you get to enjoy your Slurpee every day, but you enjoy it in much smaller amounts, and it's fine.
Sometimes it's that flavor change is the key.
That's a Bill always comes in the kitchen. He's like, I need a flavor change.
I do, but when I'm doing well, my flavor changes are small portions.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing normal,
I think that's one thing that I found successful with the way I was doing the whole dieting and fitness last season. Okay. I mean, literally when everything kind of happened with the COVID, everything kind of went out the window. But is that you can have what you want, but it's portion control. And depending on what that item was dependent on the portion. So, I mean, you can have something that's maybe not so good for you, but you can only have a little bit of it. You can have it, but or you can kind of sort of maybe a little bit more, but you would have to give something up somewhere else, basically. So if you eat really, really well, then you can treat yourself with this one little thing, but it might not be the quantity that you want. And that's fine. But what it was basically teaching was that food is not eating well is what you should be doing all the time. And you can have a little bit of everything, but you still have to eat well as your base. Basically.
Yeah, that's true. But the biggest thing is food can't be the enemy.
No.
Right? You can't,
and that's what it was trying
be,
to teach you.
Yeah, and if you're in a situation where all you want is, let's say you want to live off of Snickers bars, and you think, okay, well, if I just don't have that much of it, then I'm fine, right? Well, you still want to have the healthy food in there as well, but there's got to be moderation to everything, so that you'll drive yourself nuts trying to
jump into a keto diet.
Yeah, jump in,
which is just hardcore.
Or jump into paleo, or jump into being a vegan or something like that. It's just it's unrealistic. There are several people on the planet that can do things like that, and great for them, but that's not normal.
That's not the majority.
And everything in that respect needs to be done gradually and in moderation and with balance. So, while we're sitting here, my wife brought me a beautiful cocktail, and it's delicious.
Aww.
But it's the only one I'm gonna have tonight. So it's pretty simple. We had salmon and green beans for dinner, and I'm having a cocktail afterwards. And that kind of balance works out very well.
Right. It's the moderation of everything. You're not going to tank it all on tonight.
Right. Yeah.
You might after this podcast.
Don't you think people jump into their diet and they it's really a lifestyle change. So, I think a lot of times people will go into
this time of year
changing everything. Whereas, I think more people are successful if they make smaller changes over a longer period of time versus trying to make one big change, because they just get tired of it. And it is.
They'll burn out by the end of January, early February. March. Done.
I think also the idea of making a lifestyle change can be very intimidating to people as well. So, the way I always try to put it is, we're not necessarily looking for a lifestyle change per se. Obviously, behind the scenes, that may be the goal. But really what I'm looking for out of people, if I do, if they're struggling with training or if they're struggling with their diet, is we're actually looking for a little bit of a mindset shift. And, we're kind of almost trying to Jedi mind trick them into healthier habits by not necessarily enforcing a lifestyle change. We want that to be the overall product of the process. But the process is more involved with having a mindset shift and making it seem that it's not so daunting. And once their mindset starts to change a little bit, then they start making their own decisions, and they become better and better decisions about what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, and those sort of things. And before they know it, they've made a lifestyle change, but it's not as a direct result of the goal being a lifestyle change. If the goal is just a simple mindset shift, small amounts at a time, then we can really affect large change over the long term. And I'm somebody who I can't remember the last time I made a New Year's resolution. partially because I'm a little too impatient to wait for a calendar to click over just for me to do something. But at the same time, you know, I'm constantly trying to find ways that I can be a better me and improve, you know, how I'm living my life, whether it's my food, my exercise, you know, other things that are going on with relationships or whatever it is. It can't just be, all right, here comes New Year's Day, here comes a new year, let's try to do something different this time around. I mean, for me, go ahead and make that change now. Now, if you're looking at something for, okay, I'm preparing for the next racing season, obviously there is starting and end points to things, and it is good to have a target, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, okay, season starts, let's say April 7th at such and such track. All right, so that's my deadline for being at this point. You make yourself a goal, you set yourself a target. That's my goal for this off season, and you have a well-defined off season. But then you can carry that over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it just stops. So there doesn't necessarily always need to be a specific start and end date to all of this stuff. It's a constant process and constant evolution.
I think that's why Vicky's been walking behind me going, these aren't the Slurpees you were looking for.
Yeah, what gives with that?
I don't know. It's coming clear now.
Yeah, substitute a Slurpee for like a smoothie.
No problem. I can have I can have a lot of Slurpees then. Oh, you
I'll
meant
tell you,
the other
I'll
way.
tell you a nice little trick. I love Slurpees as well. I think they're delicious.
Yeah.
Every morning I have a fruit smoothie, and I put in it banana, blueberries, strawberries, avocado, a little bit of protein powder to make it a little bit thicker, and some like cinnamon and turmeric, and you know, a couple of, you know, a little bit of spinach here and there, stuff to make it nice and healthy.
Well, sounds like we have a recipe on the
I'll tell you what,
podcast outline.
it doesn't taste great. So what I do is I get myself a like an amino acid powder, and the flavor in those things is awesome.
Yeah, really.
I put half a serving, you know, so let's say a serving of that is 2 scoops. I'll put 1 scoop in a double smoothie. So literally a quarter of a serving per smoothie, and it makes it taste delicious.
Wow.
Completely takes over the taste of the smoothie, and it's like I'm drinking a Slurpee every morning.
You
You get
you
Bill.
know, I would just everything you did before that sounded pretty good, actually, to me.
For those of you looking for Trey's amino acid spiked smoothie recipe, look at our podcast notes. I'll figure out.
There you go. Boom.
I'll figure out what it is. Excellent. So Trey, we're catching you before the holiday season, before Secret Santa. What's the thing we do? The Yankee gift exchange?
I think we call it white elephant down here. But
yeah, white elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it Frankmas.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of them. So I've got some ideas.
Yeah, who's this Chris guy?
Who's this Chris guy? Well, yeah. So I've got some ideas. Things that you could get your significant other, things that you might want for Christmas. What about, since everybody's got to work out from home, what about the ever sexy, nobody ever got one before, let's talk kettlebells.
I love kettlebells.
Vicki hates kettlebells.
Believe it or not,
I
they
haven't
even
really
make
used a
they make
kettlebell.
adjustable kettlebells. So you can get just 1 kettlebell
Ooh,
or 2 if you want 2.
we've already got.
But you've
several.
got varying weights just within that 1 kettlebell.
Mhm.
Crip Chuck over here is Googling kettlebell. Okay.
Well,
That
How-
thing.
You can do, and
The
you
Bugs Bunny cartoon that I watched 40 years ago.
and you can do the same thing with a dumbbell too. So you can have the adjustable dumbbell where you like turn the little dial, and like certain weights don't stay attached, and you pick it up, and the weights are still sitting in the tray, and you've got half of them still on the dumbbell. I think Bowflex makes a good adjustable dumbbell. They make one for the kettlebell as well. That kind of stuff is great because it saves a lot, you know, doesn't take up much space at all. And you can have those slightly heavier weights that you can't get from just the 5s and the 10s, that kind of stuff. I think they go up to like 50 pounds. something like that.
There's a 55 and an 80.
Yeah. Whoa. There you go. What the thing with that is you're paying per pound.
Yes.
When you get one of those. So usually getting two 80-pound weights and with shipping, that can be a little bit pricey. Totally understand if people aren't on board with doing that for Christmas, but you can get one of the smaller ones, maybe the 30-pound adjustable weight, or get a couple of kettlebells, that sort of thing. And yeah, absolutely. Like I said, don't sleep on the small weights, but at the same time, you've got options for if you do want something a little bit heavier, you can do those adjustable type deals without having to buy a whole kettlebell set or a whole dumbbell set to try to, fit in your living room.
Okay, so we got kettlebells gets a thumbs up. What about
kettlebells? Gets a big thumbs up. I'm a big kettlebell fan.
Oh, Miss Vicky's got an idea.
Trey, one of the issues of getting into this time of year, number one, it just seems like we're already all on autopilot to just jump into fitness, and everybody, Bill, comes into this
right here
with like 100% full on. We're going to go P90X right now.
Oh yeah.
P90X3.
Right. And that's how
Full
we
diesel.
start out. When that is sometimes for some of us is just not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So what about just not so much the gung-ho gung-ho versus just easing into it, something that's fun, something that's entertaining to do, because trying to just go full on hard hog is just
hard hog. Okay.
I'm using that. I'm stealing that from you.
Right.
By the way,
it's too much. Yeah.
Hard hog. Is that the guy from Dukes of Hazzard?
I'm on board.
Yeah, but I mean, do you understand? Which means like we're like a month in of this exercising, and we're already burning out because we're setting unsustainable expectations.
And it's like we just talked about with the food too, right? If you look at it as like, oh, this needs to be a lifestyle change, that can be a very daunting thing to think about. Now with exercise, it's usually a little easier to jump in than it is with food. Exercise, you see almost an immediate benefit, and you also feel like when you're in the middle of it, you feel like you're making a change to yourself. So at the same time, you want to make sure you don't go hard hog into it and burn yourself out.
2020.
So starts
2020, everything goes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's the new hashtag for 2021.
It's going to be a theme on
going
our
hard hog.
Hashtag hard hog.
That's right.
It's going to show up on my Instagram tomorrow.
Yeah, I know for me that when I was
it's going to be on one of our race cars. I can see
it's
it coming now.
When we have been doing this, it's cyclical for us. So this particular time around, again, when I started the Noom, I had gone in and decided this time I'm going to go in for a trainer, because that way the trainer and I can work together and can detect.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about that's what we talked about last time we were on the podcast, right?
I did.
Find that
and
trainer.
I did. And
awesome.
then I was already going in, like I was already taking yoga through the winter, or something like a, it's kind of like yoga, but it's more heavier
Pilates.
side of yoga.
Like a Pilates?
No, it's not Pilates. It's not Pilates, but it's the heavier side of yoga.
Okay.
That's me.
Which was fine, but that person ended up leaving. She ended up moving her business somewhere else. So I figured, okay, I need to do something quick. So I shopped around for a little while, joined the gym, and got a personal trainer, which was working out great. Right. And then COVID hit. And then everything started shutting down, and we started shutting down. Everybody went into a whole panic.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. So, but I found that had worked for me personally. But now that we're not able to do stuff like that, and then, now we're kind of back to the P90X, or Bill goes from 0 to 10 and then becomes competitive on top of it.
0 to 10 or 0 to 11?
Yeah.
I mean, ours goes to 11.
He goes to 11 for like 3 weeks and then he's done.
Right. So
Wow.
and well, but that
That's a
happens
challenge.
that happens with so many people, and that, well, there you go. There's that mindset right there. Is he's now seeing that as a challenge. So what's going to
Right.
happen? He's going to
Yeah.
go at
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
He's going to go at it hard for another 2 weeks,
Right.
and then
But
he's going
here's
to
the
fall
thing
off
with Bill's
again. So
challenge, though, is Bill's challenge is that Bill needs somebody to challenge instead of challenging himself.
Can't handle
fair
it.
enough. Yeah.
Ooh.
Well,
can't-
So there's the thing. He needs
Yeah.
accountability.
And we've got a lot going on here, right? We've got a lot with.
I'm going to
you
end
know,
up in a tub with this discussion.
trainers.
There's no chance
No,
I'm
I
sleeping
mean
in the
it
bed
with
tonight.
love. I mean
Where'd
it
my
with
kidney
love.
go?
It's
I
just
do.
sleeping in the bathtub.
So we've got a lot going on here. There's the element of trainers not being available. You can't go to the gym, right? There's the element of what's available to you at home. It can be really easy to burn out on it. And at the same time, there are a lot of things that are available, simply on YouTube. There's a lot of, let's say, fitness influencers, right, on
Yes,
Instagram and YouTube.
I've
and
seen
things
them.
like that. Within those, there are sustainable programs
Mhm,
that you can follow, like on YouTube.
mhm.
Obviously, that's not something that that I subscribe to, because I've got my program that I'm doing. But I know, very specifically, my wife has done several of these, and they've worked very well for her while she's been at home.
Mhm.
If you're familiar with the Tone It Up, that's
No.
that's a pretty good program for, working out at home. They base it completely on not having, very much equipment at all, and it's all guided. So I think that's one of the things that, you know right now people are lacking guidance with being stuck at
Mhm.
home. You talked about
Yes.
going to the gym and having a trainer. And
Mhm.
that was one of the things that I thought was a great idea. Obviously, I recommended it, and it sounds like it worked really well for you for the
It
short
was
time you were
working
able
really
to
well.
do it. But now everybody's stuck at home, and not only do they not have equipment, but they don't have guidance either.
Mhm.
So it's there are good guidance systems out there available. YouTube is actually a pretty solid place to start. Now, not everything on YouTube is going to be gold, but again, doing something is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
So, and you don't always have to do every day. That's the thing, is
Mhm.
these YouTube trainers, they're posting something every day. They're posting a video every day because that's how they get attention. That's how they get that's how they get likes. That's how they get comments. That's how they get ratings. That's how they get money, is by posting something every day. That
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it every day. You
Yeah.
can do it just 3 times a week or 4 times a week, or whatever works best for you starting out.
Mhm.
Start with 2 or 3 days a week. Pick the stuff that you like to do. You can scroll through and it says, all right, blast your arms for 20 minutes, or a
Mhm.
15-minute core workout, or the 20-minute booty builder, or whatever it is. They've got different options. Try
Mhm.
stuff that you like doing first.
Mhm.
See if you like that with the way they do it, and what the gauge the intensity level of what they're doing, and if that's something that works for you.
Mhm.
And if it does, then try some of their other stuff, and then
Right.
start adding on days to your training week. If it doesn't work, try somebody else. And so, I mean, those options are readily available. YouTube is super free.
Yeah.
So, just because somebody is posting something every day and providing that content every day doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow it every day. So, start wherever works for you. And I say you as in everybody who's listening. Start
Right.
start wherever works for you, and find something that you like. It's okay to search around for a little bit before you find it too. You don't have to, if you don't like the first thing you try, it's cool. No
Well,
worries.
I know that the
You can look some
discussion
more.
I know the discussion that we had last year did work. and I did have a good solid,
Mhm.
regimen going before everything crashed, which was really great. And to me, it just meant that it's sustainable for me.
Mhm.
And it might not work for everybody. And I think this time around, I personally have this issue where I know I constantly get tightness in my back constantly. And just for
Mhm.
me easing into it again, I think I'm going to start off with yoga,
Mhm.
only because of this constantly with the muscles in the back.
Mhm. And YouTube's a great place to find yoga
Right.
as well. Guided yoga.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's man, there's so much of that
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. You almost can't miss it.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah, I think
that's a good start.
it is. I mean, it's a fantastic start. I mean, I mentioned YouTube simply because literally everybody with internet access has access to it.
Yes.
Obviously there are other programs that you can purchase like P90X and things like that, but um, you know, I'm sure everybody's heard the phrase "free is for me."
Right. Well, the other
Free
thing too
99. So
is when I
there's
was
no
working out
reason.
last
Yeah.
year, I had just discovered that I had a shoulder injury and didn't realize I had a shoulder injury because I went to go lift something. I'm like, that hurts. And it
Mm-hmm.
didn't hurt before and it feels like bone. If
Never good.
right, but kind of going in, now you have to figure out when we're doing these things, we also have to consider our ages
Mm-hmm.
and our own personal injuries on what we should be focusing on
Absolutely.
and how we should be focusing on it.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
going hold hard in on P90X when you're like 60 years old might not be the right start for you.
I think you meant hard hog.
Hard hog.
Hard hog in, come on.
But yes, you can't, if you're 65 years old and haven't worked out in 30 something years, you're not going to go every day of P90X or Insanity or something like that right out of the gate. And that is where trainers are extremely helpful, is especially dealing with past injuries and injuries you didn't know you had and that sort of thing. And that's why I say, start with that 1 day a week, or 2 days a week, start with something that you feels good already. It's a part of your body that you don't have injuries in. So if it's like, lifting stuff up over your head is kind of an issue for you, then maybe start with something that's lower body based or something like that. When it comes to dealing with some of those injuries, physical therapists are still allowed to operate. So don't be afraid to, go and see one of those, and that can help you. Just tell them that, hey, I'm trying to improve my fitness by doing workouts at home. I like following so and so on YouTube. These are the kinds of workouts that they do. These are the things in those workouts that are difficult for me or cause pain for me, for whether it's a bone or a tendon or a ligament or whatever it is. I feel a pinch when I do this, or it's very tight when I do this, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's where a physical therapist can help you out and help improve those things so that you can get back to doing the types of exercise that you enjoy doing. And it can't, maybe it's like, oh, I like going mountain biking, but at the end of every mountain bike ride, my left shoulder is killing me, or my right glute is killing me at the end of every mountain bike ride. What's going on? So, there are still health and fitness professionals that are available to help with things like that. Trainers, less access to them, but physical therapists, they're still operating everywhere. You put your mask on, they got their mask on. They're in a pretty much sterilized environment. And people can still feel safe when they're going to see a physical therapist right now. And they can be extremely helpful, especially if there is like a specific injury that somebody's dealing with. And, especially if they were working with a trainer because of that injury. And now they're on their own, they're at home, and they don't know how to treat that themselves. They don't know how to continue working through that in a way that won't further injure them. That's where a physical therapist can be extremely helpful.
That's a really good idea. It's not like you have to go and do weeks of therapy in their place. You just need somebody to go in there,
Give you
show
some
you what you need to
guidance. Yeah.
do. You can take this information home with you because you already have what you need to work out at home. So it might
Yeah.
just be a one-time visit.
Yeah.
It might be a two-time visit, depending on what injuries
Exactly.
you're trying to address. It's not like you need
Exactly.
the therapy itself. You just
Mhm.
need to discuss it with someone.
You just need a little bit of education, right? Like I mean, I've had multiple drivers who have had relatively serious injuries. One of them, dislocated his shoulder and
Mhm.
suffered a partial tear in his labrum, which is like that's the tendinous tissue inside the shoulder capsule.
Not
Mhm.
good.
Torn there, shoulder dislocated, came back into place on its own. One session with a physical therapist. Now, of course, I was sitting on that session, and that gave us some things that we could then go and do to rehab it from there. But the goal of most physical therapists is not to keep you coming back 3 times a week. They want to see you as few times as possible, and that works out well for everybody.
Mhm.
All right, back to Christmas gifts. What about exercise bands?
Love them.
Resistance bands. Pretty cheap.
Yeah, very cheap. They work very well. You can get the strength bands, which are like the closed loop
Mm-hmm.
type bands, or the the exercise bands with the handles on them, that sort of thing. Again, that's where a lot of your tempo exercises come in. The bands are great for that.
Mhm.
Doing a stand on the center of the band. You can do like a bicep curl, 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down, or a tricep extension, 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down, that sort of thing. A lot of really cool things. Great core stuff that you can do with the bands as well. So
I cheat too.
yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Okay. All right. I've got more. You want some more? What about a Whoop strap or an Apple Watch or a Fitbit?
So with that, it really does depend on the individual and what really motivates them. I think there's a lot that goes into is a Whoop band or a Apple Watch or a Fitbit good for somebody. For somebody who's obsessive, maybe not the best idea. For somebody who's lazy and isn't going to pay attention to it, well, that's just a waste of money, right? So, yeah, I mean, those are helpful, and it just depends on who you are and if it's helpful for you. So, if it's something that is motivating for you to get up and walk around a little bit more than you normally would, awesome. If you're somebody who understands a lot about what heart rate means and the type of information that you can get from that raw data, then it's something that's good for you. If it doesn't motivate you at all, or if you're going to look, you're going to get into a work week hustle with a few of your friends, and all you're going to see is they're walking 16,000 steps a day and you're doing 4, and it just makes you sad, then maybe that's not something that you need to be looking at every day, right? So, yeah, I mean, they're definitely very useful tools, and I think for the general, just for the general person, they're typically very helpful. Yeah, but again, everybody's got to do their own little cost benefit analysis on something like that too, because now we're not talking about a $15 band. We're talking about a piece of electronics that's going to cost you a few $100.
Vicki, you got a puzzled look.
No, I'm on and off with the bands, only because either sometimes they work with your phone, sometimes they don't work with your phone, sometimes it's not a compatible element. You get different readings. They're handy, but then they're also annoying to me when it comes to those. Mostly because when I'm working out, sometimes they sweat on my wristband and they kind of give me like a rash.
So yeah, I mean, I've never used one personally, so it is kind of difficult for me to answer that one. I hate jewelry. I hate wearing it. I hate wearing something around my wrist. I've never worn a necklace. I've never worn any kind of a bracelet. Literally the only piece of jewelry I ever wear is my wedding ring, and I wear a silicone one of those. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've never used personally. I've never used a Fitbit or a Whoop band or anything like that. I do have some clients that use a Aura ring, which I think is fantastic.
What is it?
And an Aura ring, I think it's spelled Oura.
That's the one
Okay.
that when you're blue, you're happy, and when you're green, you're angry, and when you're red.
I think it's different.
No, different. No.
So it measures like your heart rate, and it keeps track of your sleep and things like that. And one of the biggest things it measures is heart rate variability, and that we can use to tell if somebody's we can pull out of it essentially what somebody's readiness level is. Is it a good day for them to train hard, or is it a day where they need recovery based on their heart rate variability? So that gets into a little bit higher level when when we're talking about like what kind of info you can get from one of these bands and what does it mean. Most people aren't going to know what the heck to do with heart rate variability. Like, what does that even mean?
And that kind of goes to your phone, I imagine. It's Bluetooth.
Yeah. So the ring is Bluetooth to your phone, exactly. And
Oh no! You know what Bill's going to end up getting next.
So I want to say they're like $300 or $400, something like that for. You already have one?
That's my heart rate variability.
Yeah, there you go. So what do?
I look at it every day and say,
That's cool.
He mostly focuses on his sleep.
Well, that's because the heart rate variability monitors my recovery. And when my heart rate, when my heart rate variability is not high? When Vicki's back acts up and she rocks and rolls the whole freaking night.
I do.
Yeah.
And you know what the thing is it's not bone. It's not bone.
It's bone in me. You can track my recovery and my sleep habits are 1-to-1 with Vicki's back.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense.
And you know
100%.
what, honestly, and when it comes to that, in the middle of the night, I'm doing yoga stretches in the middle of the night so I can try to stretch this back out because it just keeps going like this.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm thinking. That's why I think I want to start out with the yoga, because as soon as I get all those stretches in and get a nice hot shower, hot bath, then I'm pretty much set.
Yeah, and stretching works great for in the moment. Like it's that obviously provides that instant relief, but usually tightness is a symptom of a muscular imbalance.
That's what I'm thinking. It's a posture thing.
Yeah, well, it comes from weakness in those muscles. So it's a little bit counterintuitive. Obviously, when you have tightness somewhere, your first tendency is to try to stretch it out, and it provides that instant relief because that hurts so good. Really, what that muscle needs is to be strengthened. So it actually needs to be worked. It needs activity. So yeah,
That's what I'm thinking. The yoga is going to be twofold for me for a little while as I start easing into it, and it's fun.
Yeah, but you make a great point too, though, about your heart rate variability being directly correlated to Vicki's back. Where if your sleep is interrupted, your stress levels are higher. Your stress levels are higher. Your heart rate variability is lower. And then you need more recovery after that. It says you didn't get very good recovery. So, I mean, thus is the conundrum of every married couple on the face of this planet.
That's right.
Trust me. There's plenty of nights where my wife's like, I didn't sleep very well at all. And usually it's because, I had acid reflux that night, or I was, tossing and turning or whatever it was. And as a result, her sleep score was terrible.
Yep. Vicki's trying out for the next Bambi movie as Thumper.
Yeah. We actually worked better when we had a king size bed, because then it was, we were separated enough from it when things got that
It
way.
definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of thing helps. Or you could just go back to the 1940s and have 2 twin beds with a little
Hey,
end
Lucy.
in between.
Hey, Lucy.
Lucy,
I don't
get
know,
to your own bed.
something about a pandemic and a depression or a recession. I mean, it might be 1918 all over again. We just don't really know it.
Might be.
We're all doing what we can do right now.
That's right. All right, I've got more.
Okay.
All right.
What if we're gonna go and we're gonna say, listen, I can't get to a trainer. My gym's closed. What if I go get a Peloton or a mirror or I forgot what the other 2 were, but I had some. There's more. I'm sure there's more. What do you think?
I wish I had invested in Peloton before this all went down.
Yeah, they did
Because
okay.
their sales went way up.
Yep.
There's
a lot of them used available right now, just in case for those playing at home.
Peloton's fantastic. I mean, I think their platform that they've created is great. You get this piece of equipment for what is like $2,200 or something like that, and then it's a monthly fee that's similar to a gym membership, and you have guided workouts whenever you want them. Like they're literally on demand. So for somebody who enjoys that, that's fantastic. I even have professional racing drivers that I train in my gym, and they have Peloton subscriptions and use them regularly. That's something that they love to do. So stuff like that, absolutely fantastic, because it gives that guidance that we were talking about, especially if you're somebody who really flourishes and thrives when you have that certain level of guidance to what you're doing. Peloton or the mirror, those kinds of things, those provide that. They give you that guidance. They have they also have community too, which I think for a lot of people, that's one of the things that people really miss out on when they're stuck at home. They miss the guidance, but they also miss the community as well. I know there's plenty of people that go to spin class so that they can get their ass kicked, but also they can gossip a little bit, or they can talk to their friend. That's when they see their friend that they don't work with, or that doesn't live in their neighborhood or something like that. So, you get a little bit less of that with something like a Peloton or a mirror. Obviously you have, it's more of a virtual community, but it does still exist. So, we always joke with a friend of mine who's stuck working at home, who works for the bank, and, every day he cycles against a bunch of yoga moms. So, he feels really good that he's top of the class. So, you can drop into wherever you want to in those things. And if you want a little confidence boost, go ahead and get it. If you want competition, you can drop into somewhere where there's a lot of competition. So, and Vicki, this is where you talked about, Bill can't just be in competition with himself. He needs to be in competition with other people. Peloton or mirror.
But see, sometimes that's not good in a marriage. because
not with each other. No,
no. And I think the issue when Bill and I were doing it is that we live together, we work together, we race together, and then we go into competition to gym together. And just like, you know what? I got too much of you right now.
There's never too much of me.
But you're right about the idea about the Peloton and what you were explaining. That's what kept me going back. Was number one, it was the accountability. Is to go. It's like, okay, I paid for this, and there's somebody there waiting for me. Yeah. And whether and granted, I was in a very small group of like 4 or 5, but going there, setting a goal, and having some there who's working with me personally to hold me accountable to that. And then giving me the feedback that I need, which was really good. And
now with a Peloton or a mirror, you're not going to get that feedback, right? It's not going to be as personalized. Right. We're thinking more, you're looking more at like, how a spin class goes, or if you've ever been to like a boot camp or right. What do they call it? the whole full body workouts, the Les Mills stuff.
But it's familiarity.
Yeah, it's right. And it's something that you know, if you've done it a few times before, you kind of know the flow and that sort of thing. But yeah, if it's again, it just depends on what everybody's personality is and what works
Right.
for you. You know, if you're somebody that if you don't like to cycle a lot, then I wouldn't recommend getting a Peloton. Like it's literally one form of exercise. You get to do different things with it. You get to do, you know, sprint intervals, and you get to do a long distance ride, and you can, you know, race against other people on certain, you know, imaginary road courses and stuff like that. And all of that's really great, and it can be extremely beneficial. But if you're somebody that is going to use it a few times and be like, well, I'm bored with this now, then, you know, it might not be the greatest investment. But if you are somebody that really does thrive on guidance and community and can deal with the repetitiveness of something, then it's fantastic for you, because you are still getting a bit of a variety. They're going to periodize what you're doing, and then, you know, you're going to do hill sprints one day, you're going to do a long ride a different day, and then you're going to maybe do you know, something in between where it's, you know, fewer intervals, maybe a slightly longer distance, that kind of stuff. You're going to get that variety, even though you're still on a stationary bike each time. But you still have that, you know, that guidance, the competition, the community. And if those are the sort of things you thrive on, then absolutely, you know. So I think there's an element too of, you know, not to get too deep into thought, but there's an element of this pandemic that's really showing people who they are.
Right.
People who, you know, people don't really realize, oh, this is something that works well for me, or this, you know, I thought this worked for me and it really doesn't. And there's a lot of, I feel like, self-discovery and self-awareness that's happening over the course of this year that otherwise wouldn't have for a lot of people. And people are realizing, like, you know, maybe I'm not a Peloton person.
Yeah.
You know, they get it and they're like, oh, well, I'm stuck at home, but get a Peloton. And they're like, okay, maybe I'm not one of those people who can do the same thing or a slightly different variation of the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Maybe I'm not the kind of person who can make chicken, brown rice, and broccoli and make 5 servings of it on a Sunday and eat it every day throughout the week for lunch. Or maybe I am, you know, that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of people finding out who they really are through all of this. And hopefully 10 months in now, most everybody will have kind of started to figure it out.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right. I just can't.
If they've been paying attention.
I just can't believe how amazing I am.
Oh.
Bill, I've been trying to figure that out since our last podcast.
Me too.
I know. It's tough.
I've been racking my brain.
It's tough being this good. It's amazing. It's the pressure, you know. But, you know, luckily I'm good enough to withstand it. Okay. So, Trey, I have a parting gift for you.
Ooh, is it a Peloton?
Nope. Nope, because you don't need it. I do, but you don't. So next time when we're on together, there's 25 pounds less of me.
Okay.
See, he's making you his competition now.
I am.
I
have a goal now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using our guests for the benefit of my health, and you're upset by it.
No, not at all.
She's on board.
She's on board.
She's on board.
I'm going to start my yoga regimen. Going to kick my noon back up.
There's going to be less of me to love, but you'll be okay, sweetie.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Exactly. Jennifer's just shaking her head in the background going, why am I on this podcast? Why am I on this podcast? Why is my microphone not working? I know. It just seems that way sometimes, you know? Sir, is there anything we might have missed that'll help our listeners get in shape, get ready for next season, work off what they need to this winter? Did we skip something? I think we did okay.
I got to be honest. I think you guys did your homework pretty well on this one. I feel like it's been a uh, pretty thorough examination of everything that we can possibly do to deal with the circumstances that we're all in right now. And uh, you know, uh, we've made a lot of jokes, but I really do honestly hope that everybody at home is still finding sanity and happiness and able to continue whatever their self-improvement journey may have been before this and may be now. So yeah, it's we're talking about something that is difficult. We're all stuck in the same situation. It's very different for each individual in terms of what the actual restrictions are. Like
Hmm.
my wife works from home every day. I go into work every day.
Right.
So, everybody's got a slightly different view of what's going on, even though it's the same single thing that's going on for everybody. So, yeah, I mean, I hope that everybody listening to this is able to take a couple of, nuggets from it and use it in some way to make the rest of this pandemic time a little bit better for them.
Absolutely. Trey, thank you for coming on again. You put up with us for third time now. Don't know why.
There better be a fourth.
There will be. There'll be a thinner fourth. I will not be
A fitter
There'll be
fourth.
a thinner fourth with a. I want to know what my voice sounds like.
I may have to introduce you with
You've
the
got
voice.
me curious now.
I will work on it, and I will introduce you with your own voice next time.
Awesome, fantastic! I can't wait.
Thank you,
Love
Trey.
We'll have to do the post lockdown
That's right.
episode then.
That's right. I will be sending you an email at some point with a I have reached my 25-pound and continuing to go. So we will keep you apprised.
Well, I've got to know, what did you guys get to continue racing at all through all of this?
We went to one race. Kathy from Lucky Dog had their first ever East Coast race. So since it was their first ever race, we decided to do it with her. And then the rest of the time we did mostly HPDEs, just trying to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the HPDE tends to have a smaller group, so you can kind of keep to a little quieter and a little smaller number of people. So
Awesome.
So we'll see if we got any better next year.
I think we did.
Well, I mean, there's a limit.
2021, here we all come, right?
That's right.
No.
I thought I'd see everything clearly at 2020, but no.
No.
Sucked. But we're getting there. And we will bother you again in 2021.
Awesome. I hope you do.
All right.
Yes.
Thank
If you
you,
don't, I'll
Trey.
be pissed.
Don't worry. Once we find somebody who says yes to coming on the podcast, we don't let them go. Thank you, sir. Have a great
I
night.
love it. Yeah.
Thank you,
Merry
Trey.
Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dominating with Dawson.
Ben Dawson, we're back again.
All right.
I just went to an HPDE, and I think I got a lot better, actually, a lot faster. Learned a lot. One of the things that the instructor said, that then I went and applied it on the track, and I dropped significant amounts of time. He said, this is Robin from the NASA Great Lakes HPDE 3. He said that it's better to drive with 100% commitment a bad line than to go on the perfect line but not be committed 100%.
Probably sounds pretty good to me. I mean, at least go hard, and then refine it from there. But if you're going to be timid, if you're going to be the world's quietest rock drummer, you're never going to be John Bonham.
Well, thanks. No, I don't know where to go, but we're going to keep going. So
I'm just saying that as far as taking the timid, very under control approach, but you're parking your car on the exact spot where you park your car, I guess, on the track.
Mm-hmm.
That does, you're not really accomplishing much. Is that sort of what he's getting at? Like, even
I
if
think
you were to
so.
commit to
I think just try and go And if you miss your apex by 6 inches, do it hard, do it fast. And
Yeah, I think there's some value to that. There's no value to going a very comfortable speed and putting the car exactly where it needs to be every time and not getting any faster. So if you're talking about even at at the DE 1, 2, and 3 level, there are plenty of people who don't approach it as hard as they should as far as the pace and maxing out what the car can do on track.
Right. So what about you, Miss Jen? What do you think? Is it are you at the stage? Are you at a stage where you worry about the line and you want to hit the line, or are you at a stage where you want to go fast and more or less close is good enough right now? Or
No, I am, and the last HPDE we did, I spent, and I mentioned this before, I spent most of the time trying to get the perfect line because I just wanted to, and not, I wanted to get the perfect line. I just wanted to know the feeling of going in and out of a turn the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because I wanted that to be so natural. So yeah, I mean, I really wasn't focused on just, going and pushing the car and going as fast as I can. But I really kind of wanted to get the feeling of it being right. Do you know what I mean? Like I want that to be second nature for me.
Right. Right.
So I can't identify what I'm doing wrong if I don't know what I'm doing right. Does that make sense?
What you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to completely devalue the idea of being exactly on the right line at a relatively slow pace. That's what you're doing at the levels of DE driving where you are right now, Jess. That's pretty natural to be wanting to naturalize the line. But if Bill is encountering an instructor at his level where he was running DE3 at Autobahn last weekend, and that person is saying, hey, listen, I don't care if you're hitting it exactly right, but at this level, you need to be hitting it pretty hard as far as pace-wise, and then refining your line from there, because this person is presupposing that Bill has already been through the more basic steps of saying, all right, here's where you put the car, and always be in the right place and be safe, and you run at a relatively low speed. This person is talking to Bill at a different experience level.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way he put it was, we want you to push from driving as fast as you're comfortable with and go past that and go to where you can get to and try to really get some speed out of the car versus driving at a comfortable, safe pace and not pushing it. So that was kind of the mindset I was trying to break, because to be honest, I've never pushed in an endurance race, because it's an endurance race, so I've never gone what I would consider my 10/10ths, because the car needs to go for 18 hours or whatever the race is for, and I wanted everybody to get in the car. And honestly, at 10/10ths in the races that we're involved in, there's too many people, there's too much going on the track. You kind of got to back it down a little bit, and it's more important to do a lap than to save a fraction of a second on one lap and do more laps. So this was the first weekend where I actually ever really said, okay, let's see what we can do here. And it was kind of fun.
Yeah, you saw the window open to where hey, that's where the fast people are. I can see my way to being over there.
It might be somewhere in front of me. Might actually be possible. So it was it was fun.
That's cool. That's really cool.
It was. Miss Vicki, what's your thoughts here?
I try to stay on the line. If I can fight for the line, I'll fight for the line. Mm-hmm. If it's available to me. You mean fight for the line? If there's there's a line on the track, obviously, that you race on. If I have that line or I can get to the line, I will be on that line. Unless there's traffic, will force me off the line.
Why would you be off the line?
Sloppy driving.
So you're passing them, or they're passing you?
Because we race in a different circuit to where people don't even know about a line. So if I am racing in the HPDE, I stick to the line or I pass off the line, and do what you can. If it's an organized race, stay to the line. But in Lemons, there is no organized line. There's hopefully when you get into a certain cluster and towards the end of the weekend for the better drivers and the better cars, there will be a line that will emerge and there will be organized racing. But for the most part, in our circuit of racing, I fight for the line, stay on the line if I can. And if I go off the line, I just kind of work it to where I work my way back.
So right now at your progression level, you're more concerned about the line than the speed.
I want to drive properly because I know no other way. If I go offline, then I feel like it'll throw all my turns off and it'll throw off my speed in my racing. But
so think about what Robin's saying though. So Robin is trying to get the point across that even go hard, even if you're on the wrong line, you're going to learn something by going hard on the wrong line. So it sounds like you, if you're talking about having to be offline and drive and try to fight to get back online, you could learn a lot about being fast, even in adverse line conditions.
I mean,
right,
you race and you race. You race all you can. Lemons certainly kind of forces that on you when you race in that.
Right, and this it sounds like this Robin character is sort of reinforcing an approach that would let you realize, like, oh, hey, here's how you can be fast even if you're a little bit offline, and then as you refine yourself into the more optimal line in a DE setting, you learn, like, hey, I could still be pretty fast,
right?
Even if I'm not.
But
in
at
the
some
optimal
point, you still have
to
to force your way back onto a certain line in order to hit those turns. You have to. If not, you're going to really screw things up. So.
Sure,
but
there's an optimal line,
right? And but
that's essential if you can get
to that track, you can get away with racing all out and not being on that line as long as you get back into it before you hit that turn.
That's so true. At the S's at VIR, there are pretty much 3 lanes into there, and as long as doesn't matter which lane you enter from, as long as you hit it at the right point as you go in, you're fine. So you can get there from 3 different ways, pretty much.
Okay.
What about you?
Me?
Everybody else? Everybody got their questions answered on that?
Well, I found maybe it was where I was in my progression, but I found that being robotically following the line, I was giving up time on the track that I could get faster by, hey, if I miss this apex, whatever, but I'm on the gas, or I'm right where I can carry more speed, and if I miss this one apex and it's not a bad apex to miss or going onto a long straight or whatever, I was able to get my lap times to drop significantly by becoming less concerned about the line and more concerned about throttle and braking.
Right. So you're saying you're less beholden to exact car placement.
Yes.
And more beholden to, I have got to be back on this gas. I got to get this wheel open, and we'll figure it out. Yeah, figure it out better next time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, if I carry more speed in and into the next turn, and I haven't done this before, and I use the same brake point, I'm going to be off.
Yeah, you have to compensate, and it's not going to be pretty, right?
And I'll do it, and I'll do the best I can this time, and I'll accommodate to that the next time. But it got me significantly, like, plus 1, maybe 2 seconds a lap, which on a 140 something track, 1 or 2 seconds is a lot. It's 1 or 2%. It's basically a 100-second lap.
Yeah, this is an approach to try sort of at a certain point along your arc of development, along your sort of your spectrum of development as a driver, where it's a good plateau breaker too, to sort of be at a point where you're like, I think I got this pretty smooth. I'm putting the car exactly where it needs to be every time I go out. Then that's the time that buzzer should go off in your brain and go, all right, I'm going to try to carry 3 more miles an hour on my turn in. I'm gonna release the brakes. When I was turning in, I was letting out the brakes when I was carrying 65 miles an hour into the corner. I'm gonna try to carry 68. I'm gonna let the brakes off when I got the same place, but I'm gonna go in a little bit deeper and a little bit harder. And I'm gonna try to roll in with 3 more miles an hour and see what happens. But there's always kind of a time to push a little bit extra, and you might result in a couple of ugly corners until you get a little bit faster, which is fine. It's okay to kind of run a little weird line as you're trying to sort of push your limits, because you're going to learn a lot from that too.
And you can adjust on your next one, saying, hey, I carried more speed in. I pushed that one wide, and I carried it way out and missed the apex. So I'm going to need to back things up a little bit or hit things a little harder. And
I tried to go 10 miles an hour faster, and it pushed me off a little bit. I didn't go off track, so maybe I'll try 5 miles an hour faster.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of fun. I had a good time.
It makes a lot of sense.
Hopefully. It sounded like a Ben way. So I was like, I figured Ben was going to be all over this. He's like, yeah, just hit it.
I'm always like, try a little more than you think you can get away with. If you're at a plateau, just try a little bit deeper, a little bit earlier with the throttle. Maybe try a little more violent turn. Whatever it is, whatever you're too comfortable with, try a little more of it.
More is better.
A little bit.
There we go. Thank you, Ben.
All right.
Thanks, Ben.